family a lot tonight, but particularly we are going to touch on this modern parenting thing, the challenges that parents are facing right now, having to homeschool children, having to have children that's having too much screen time, divorced parents, how do you cope with that, second marriages. So we are definitely going to talk about the modern parenting thing tonight. And I've got a wonderful guest, but before I introduce the guest, I would like everybody to do me a favor. Will you just quickly, and thank you for those who are online already, but will you just quickly just share and tag your friends before we go forward so that we can actually see who are chatting with us, where they are and where they're from. And if you are connecting from anywhere else in South Africa than Port Elizabeth, good luck to you. We are freezing cold right now. We still don't have our rain. And so our cold is getting drier. And that's really not very pleasant. So I'm trusting that you are having a better night. But, you know, around here, we've got heaters on. And it is the weirdest thing. If we say to somebody in Sutherland that we're very cold and it's -2 there and it's only 13 here, then they laugh at us. But 13 is cold for a Port Elizabethan or a Kaibara. What sometimes I'm struggling with that word. Kaibacha. Oh, what is it? Oh, well, I'll get it right eventually. So if you are there, can you please tune in and just share with your friends the link so that we can get as many people as possible to join us right now. So I'm really so grateful that you are there. And I'm just seeing that there are some people coming through. Laxman, good evening, Lucky and Maria and Wayne Brewer and Renee Bushby, hi. And thank you for tagging Renee. Thank you, Renee. And then I see Daryl, Lucas. Thank you, Daryl and Ollie. Thank you so much. And Cindy van Willig. Cindy, I don't know if many of you, you know, there are some parents that's had Timann already ministering into their houses with their children. And I hope to see, I'm really hoping to see some of those parents coming on board tonight, because I see Manny Eagle has just joined us. Thank you, Manny. Thank you for chatting. Thank you for sending the link. While I'm waiting, and there's Richard van here, Richard, and they've got the most beautiful, bouncy little boy. My goodness. I think sometimes some people are just so good. He's just one of those lovely little boys. So there's a lot of people coming in now. Mariska, Chantal, and Stan. Remember Chantal Cholet, actually, that's how you say you saw her as well, Timann. So let me introduce you to my wonderful guest. She can tell you a little bit about her. But I can also say this, that Timann is available to come to your house and to come and help you with your modern parenting challenges. And she loves doing that, and she's really successful in that. So let me introduce you, Timann. It's over to you. You can introduce yourself.
Good evening. Hi. Dankie, Tannie. It's lovely to be here with you all. So just a quick one on who I am. I'm Timann Esterhuizen, the wife to the amazing Llewellyn Esterhuizen, mom of 3 beautiful boys, aged 7.5, 4, and 10 months old. And I'm a parenting coach for a company called Munchkins, and I have a heart for, to see families thrive rather than survive. And yeah, I just think that's so important, and for us as parents to enjoy our children. And that's my heart, and that's what I would love to share. And I feel like the Lord has given or imparted a part of his heart for godly parenting into my heart. And so this is really a ministry for me as well.
Sorry about that. I see that there's somebody that's just come on, and she said, oh, she's so chuffed that she found this, because she is so excited about seeing this, and I can't see her name. It just went right off my screen. Isn't that fantastic? When you look at a name and you can't see the name anymore, hallelujah, things like that do happen. But now, just before we go on, so let us quickly just ask you a question, Timann. How did you start this road of being a parenting coach? I mean, I know you've got 3 boys. Was that the reason, or what caused you to start the road?
So it's actually a funny story. 3 years ago, my eldest son he was about 3.5. Oh no, sorry, my middle son he was just born, I think. And the Lord said to me, he wanted me to be a parenting coach. And I actually did not know at the time what it was. I did feel in my heart that my husband and I were parenting in a different way than what we saw around us. We were doing things a bit differently. And so I kind of, and we did all of these parenting courses and things. And we were like, hey, we do that. Oh, we do this. Hey, oh, yeah, and we related to all of that. And and after that, I Googled actually, and I said, parenting coaches South Africa. Came on to this website called Munchkins, and I emailed the owner the exact words that the Lord told me he wanted me to be a parenting coach. So what do I do? And the rest is history. I did an interview with both the owner at the time, Angeline Salverson, and her daughter. I did my training, and I did my in-person training with Angeline in Cape Town 3 years ago. So I've been a coach for just over 3 years now.
That is fantastic. So being a coach is quite a challenging thing, because I think the responsibility, I always think of myself when I have to do marriage counseling, this is not about the people, it's about the generation. And you can't just do things the way you think it should go. You need to do it the correct way. So yes, it's a responsibility that you have. But right now, let's hop into this. And if anybody wants to ask a question, I would like you to ask your question so that we can have a little bit of time in between to answer questions. I must say that the time is going to fly because we have a fantastic program right here. Timann, let's talk about what is important about parenting in this modern world.
Yeah, so what I thought was to actually take modern parenting and just lay it out, because I think we need to know what we are doing, can I say wrong, or what the modern world is telling us to do, or how the modern world is molding parenting at the moment, which is kind of dangerous because we're looking around at the world and its terms and the way that everything is going just really fast and busy. So you're constantly running up and down. And that's what modern parenting looks like at the moment. We are rushing from the one thing to the next thing. Children are going to school, going to extramurals, coming home, doing homework, doing this, rushing. It's all about rushing. It's all about busyness. You're literally constantly running from the one thing to the next. There's a lot of digital we introduce a lot of screen time as well, which I think is also part of modern parenting. And there's less communication or less connection, less hands-onness, if I can put it that way. And because of all of this, because of the busyness of life in the modern world, kids lack in the basics. And we as parents lack to actually build into the basics of parenting, if I can put it that way. Does that make sense, Tani?
I think one of the things you just said is that kids lack the basics. Children lack the basics. And we as parents, we lack the basics on how to give the children the basics. Because somehow I think there's a vacuum that's been happening in society, and the pressures of life and just what's been happening has taken away the actual connection that the parents should have with the children. If you think of being you, I'm much older than you, obviously, but we used to play in the streets and it was safe. We could have just done anything and it was safe, it was fine. Even when you played, you could still play in the streets. Now it's basically taboo. To see children playing in the streets is like, what's happening there? Yeah. And we are obviously from suburb to suburb, it's a different thing. So that's what you are talking about is very important. We lack that skill. And the child cannot have the skill if we do not give them the skill.
Most definitely. So the busyness of life and the busyness of everything happening around us is also taking away from decent routine and structure, if I can put it that way, in a home environment, because we are constantly running and rushing and all of this, and we're not actually getting enough time to spend, in an environment where it's structured and routine at home together. Things like, playtime. I think I did mention to you earlier this week when we spoke that playtime's frowned upon these days when a child is a certain amount or older. And I remember, I mean, when I was in Standard 5 still playing with my dolls, you know, and I feel like now children aren't getting that opportunity because they're just being handed an iPad, the TV's getting put on in that 30 minutes that they have, or whatever the case may be, whereas children are looking for connection with mom and dad.
Well, we're talking about connection now. You know, there are times that we feel the children are manipulating for attention, and parents are often feeling this child is manipulating, but they're not reading what the child is trying to do or trying to say. Is that correct?
Yes, I actually had this discussion with a gentleman one day when I had a home visit, where I said to him, your child is manipulating you. And he said to me, she's not manipulating me because she's only 3 years old. And I said, she might not mean to manipulate you, but that's what she is doing, you know. But there's always an underlying issue. I think with parents, we always we try and sugarcoat things, and that's really not something that I do. And being a parenting coach, you can't sugarcoat things, and you need to be able to speak straightforward to someone about what's happening. So there is a sense of manipulation, but children don't understand it. But that's the way they know how to communicate across something that is bothering them, or something that is, you know, an underlying issue, as you say.
Have you noticed in your counseling sessions and talking to parents and children that sometimes the child will manipulate because there's such a lack of attention?
Yeah, you see it often. Because we work on a very balanced scale of a full love tank and boundaries. Okay, so a child's full love tank needs to be filled, and mom and dad fill their love tanks by spending one-on-one time with the child. And because things are so busy, that's not happening. Their love tanks aren't getting filled. And you know, when you have a balanced scale of boundaries and full love tank, all is amazing, and it's a nice it's a nice level. But as soon as you neglect to fill your child's love tank, and you have too many boundaries, or you have boundaries, then a child will listen, but they'll lose a sense of hope. They won't respect you. They'll do it because they're kind of scared. And if you tip it the other way and you fill a child's love tank, but you don't give them boundaries, then what will happen is they will become entitled. I want this, I need this, you give it to me. One day when they go out of your house, one day when they grow up, I want this job. Oh, I didn't get this job. What now? My whole life's going to fall apart because I'm entitled. I need to get, you know. So the balance should be very, very important with a full love tank and boundaries.
So you're touching on something that's very important here. It's the scale. It's to make sure that as a parent, you don't go that way or that way. So if you overfill the child's life, and if the child takes your life in, and you give all the attention and all the gifts and all the things, you overfill the child's tank, and then they become entitled. So now parents are often then seeing that entitlement as a lack in the child's life, and so they add more and more. So what would you say is, how can we bring the balance into our house?
Okay. So firstly, filling a love tank is not giving things, like buying, like you were mentioning now, like, let's just give them this, and let's just buy them this toy, and let's give them this fancy thing. It's all about quality time, quantity, and the quality of time that you give your children. So that is how you fill a love tank. So it's all about going back to basics and actually focusing on your child's foundation. And for them to have a solid foundation. And with us, we need to have a solid foundation, obviously. At the moment, our children build on us until they decide that they accept the Lord as their savior. Then they start building on the Lord. But at the moment, they're building on what we have, if that makes sense. So if we are shaky or not stable and our foundation is all wonky, then what we're going to build on is going to be wonky, if that makes sense. So we need to go back to basics and have a strong, solid foundation for our children to be able to build on.
Oh, well, I just know that some parents are listening and they say, yo, this sounds like way too much. You don't know my schedule. How will you answer that?
The schedule, is that what you said?
Yeah, the parents, they say it's too much. You want the balance, but they can't do a balance, the parent, because they say, I work long hours, I have to clean the house, I have to do this, I have to do that, and I can't get to that one-on-one time. Looks like I'm losing Timann somewhere, and I just want to double check that it's not my Wi-Fi playing up here.
Coach, I also do. So I just kept on. Did I go off, or did you go off? Can you hear me? Okay, awesome. So, and I'm assuming you were talking about the schedule of a person going, this is crazy. So I'm a mom of 3. I homeschool. I am a parenting coach. I am a wife. I work. I do the admin for Munchkins as well as a parenting coach. So my schedule pretty much is super busy. So time management is very important. And when we say yes to something, it's a no to something else. So we need to prioritize family time. We need to prioritize time with our children because that is something that is important. So saying no to a birthday party on Saturday morning is better than saying no to quality time with your child on a Saturday morning, if that makes sense. So your yes to something, your yes to something is a no to something else. So that's very important. So I feel like time management is crucial.
So I like what you just said there, Timann. To say no to something that happens outside the house, not all the time, but to say yes to a special time with your child is important. Because sometimes some parents have got a hoarding and a controlling way with their children. They don't allow them out anywhere. They don't allow them out time or being with friends, and that's very wrong. But it's also good to sometimes say that you and I need to spend time together because we've been too busy this week, so this party can stay over or something. But how will children react to that?
So we're not going to say no to everything, but children also need to know that we prioritize family. We always tell our boys that we are not like all the other families. We are different, and all of us as family units are different. And that is one of our family values, is quality time. And that's what we've instilled in them as well as in our time. It's a decision that we made as a family, and we kind of took back permission to say, we're allowed to say no. We're allowed to say no to social gatherings. We're allowed to say no to some things because our family is important. And my family is my first ministry. Your family is your first ministry. And it should be that way, regardless of your outside schedule.
I see a question coming up, Timann, from Ollie. And she says, hi, Timann, one question. With where life is today with COVID, etc., what would you advise parents to do or handle things? Because life as we know it is really no longer in existence.
Thank you for that, Olwetu. That's a very broad question. But remember life. So, I mean, I read this beautiful piece the other day where it says that we shouldn't feel sorry for our children because they are growing up in this environment. Because you know what? That's what they know. This is what they know. What we are living in now is what they know, and it's what's part of their life now. So the most important thing I can tell you is to be there constant, because everything around us is not consistent. School, we have school, then we don't have school, then we're on level 5, then we're on, it's not consistent around us. So be there constant, be their safe space, allow them to work through their big emotions at home, because let's face it, we all have emotions over this time. I get sad, I get angry, I get disappointed, and our children do that, get those emotions, those big emotions as well. So be the safe space for them to be able to work through those emotions at home, and try and stay calm and give, so give them a safe environment to be able to express those emotions and I know you're angry that you're not allowed to go to school, or I know that you're angry that you're not allowed to play sport, but you know what, it'll happen again, but let's go to our room and let's go punch our pillow because we are angry. You know what I mean? So give them a safe space to be able to deal with those big emotions. And I see someone just said that, how do you deal with a child that has anxiety? Exactly like that. Give them a safe space, and fill those little love tanks, spend time with them and make them know that it's okay to feel these emotions. I feel like sometimes parents just want to suppress a child's emotions because it's a big emotion. They're sad. Just stop crying just stop crying. It'll be okay. But that's not, we should say, oh, I know you're sad. You know what? Let's get those tears out. And when those tears are out, we'll talk about it. Okay. And we hug and we give them a space in their room. We do it with our boys where we say, go take a minute where they can work through those emotions. And when they are done, they come back to me and we talk about it. This exact same thing happened with my 7.5-year-old yesterday, where his dad had a daddy son date with my middle boy, and he was very upset. He was very sad because he didn't get to go on daddy date with his dad yesterday morning, and he just started crying. And he went to, and I said to him, I know you're upset, but go to your room and let's just work through these emotions. And when he came out, we could talk through it. And I gave him a safe space. I didn't say to him, just stop crying, you're being ridiculous now. I gave him a space where he could work through those emotions and come back to me, and always know that he can come back to talk to me. That is very important.
I'm just hearing what you're saying. So you are basically saying, if your child cries, how do you then differentiate between this is a naughty cry and this is a heartache cry and this is a pain cry? I mean, obviously this child is crying for a reason. Some children do walk around whining. I hear them in the shops, they're in the trolley, they can't get their chocolate or their whatever, and they go, and you think, oh my goodness, this poor parent. But how do you sort of, as a parent, because now you gave a great tool. Don't just say, shut up, stop crying, you're being stupid or anything. Don't do any of that. Give them time to deal with their tears. And then let's talk about what is the reason, why are you crying? And so how would you know the difference between it's manipulating, it's naughty, and it's a real reason?
I think any parent would know the difference with their child. You can't have chocolate right now. That is not okay. In that case, I would say stop screaming because you're crying because you're not getting your way. But when there is an emotion attached to the fact that, let's say, when it's an emotional thing, your favorite toy broke, or you lost your toy. But when it's something where they kind of just breaking down or throwing a tantrum because they're not getting their way, it's a different story, because then they're just going, well, you're not giving me what I want, so now I'm just going to throw a tantrum so that you give me what I want, or else, whereas when it's an emotional thing where you can actually feel the emotion of the child, they're angry, disappointed, sad. It generally goes in that order: is angry, I didn't get what I want, disappointed, and then they actually go, oh, I'm sad because now I didn't get that. But you know what? Next time you listen. So there is a difference in the emotional side of it. So I think it's difficult to say, but there are obviously different situations and different. So let me give you an example. Okay, so my son, I'll give you another example of my son. He's my test dummy. And anyway, so what he did was he used to have his little fish oils in the evenings. These
omega oil.
Yes, those ones. Anyway, so in the evening, we don't force him to eat all of his supper. If he doesn't want to eat his supper, boy, then you're only getting breakfast tomorrow morning. Not my problem if you get hungry, unfortunately. This is not a hotel. So that evening, he didn't want to eat his supper, and his dad said to him, well, you will not get your fish oil tonight, your little fishy. And he was like, okay, it's fine. So daddy went to a prayer meeting. He came to me, he says, Mom, can I please have my fishy? And I said, well, I heard your dad say you're not allowed to have your fishy. He started bawling his eyes out. I said, okay, go take a minute. He went to his room, cried. Came out, said, are you done? He says, I need another minute. And he ran back, started crying. Came out again, said, okay, I'm done now. So he worked through his emotions in the room, and he came out, and then I could talk to him. And I said, remember, now when you didn't eat your supper, this is why this happened. So we could talk him through it. Whereas in a situation where a child is throwing a tantrum because they didn't get the blue cup instead of the red cup, you can kind of you can take them out of the situation, but it's a different way of dealing with the emotions. But you also don't want them to, they do get angry, they do get sad, and they do get disappointed, but it's a different situation where you can't really tell them to go take a minute because they're getting so angry in that moment that they're throwing a tantrum, they're on the floor. You understand what I'm saying? So that is there's a different way to deal with that, rather than the go take a minute in a situation where you're going, oh, I didn't get what I wanted.
I'm
but you
hearing, I'm hearing what you're saying, Timann. I'm just hearing this. I love it, because for too many years, parents have just told their children, shut up, go to your room and sort yourself out. Or they just took out the belt and gave you a hiding. So, and it added to your frustration, and often children feel misunderstood. And I think parents don't give the child enough time. This is a time thing that you're talking about. Telling your child, let's go to the room, cry a little bit, when you come back. It's all time. We're not talking about sit, go, move, lie, get in your bed, get it over and done with. We're not talking. We're talking about, I'm going to help you, but we are going to deal with what's in your heart, and not just allow your emotions to play around. And that takes time. And I think parents are challenged with time. And so it's a discipline on the parent side again, because often we find that a child can only be what the parents are in the house.
That is true. I see Cindy has a question here. Sorry, let me just read it. She says, I have an almost 5-year-old who has way too much energy. I get frustrated and lose it often. I almost feel like putting myself in time out. So the beauty of parenting is you are also allowed to take a minute, Mom. But I have a lovely trick to get rid of some energy. I call it a movement jar. And in this jar, I have a bunch of activities or exercises. I use it with my boys when there's too much energy going around and we are busy homeschooling. I tell them to go grab an activity or a movement out of their movement jar. And it would say something like 20 jumping jacks, or run around the house twice, or do some crab walks, etc. So Cindy, get hold of me and I'll send you my the link of all the activities, and you can try it with your 5-year-olds. But you know what? I see you say you go down there was one where I said you go down to his level, you talk gently. Sorry. So if I talk to my son seriously, he does not respond. But when I go down to his level and talk gently, he cries. That confuses me. Oh, that's Chantal Littlefoot. Okay, so boundaries are very important with children. And they actually crave boundaries because boundaries make them feel safe. Okay, so when we do give an instruction to our children, we stand up tall, we are confident, and we tell them, and we say it in a I mean it tone, but also not a tone or a squeaky tone. When we give them an instruction, it's a happy tone, but it's also a direct tone of, I need you to do this now. And we always go low and slow rather than high and screechy, because we all know when moms go high and screechy, children actually forget what they did wrong, and they actually just focus on mom and why is she being crazy, because she's speaking in that weird frequency, and they actually forget what they're doing wrong. So yeah, children love boundaries, and it makes them feel safe, and they really, really need it.
That is a very interesting thing. So we've come now from giving your child time, giving them time to work through their emotions. So we're talking 2-time things. Now we're talking boundaries. Now, I know for a fact, as a parent, it's good to keep your boundaries when you're angry with the child. You will make your bed. But tomorrow, I'm happy, so we don't make beds. So talk to me about boundaries. How
I love
boundaries. A boundary? Yeah.
Let me explain to you how I explain to my boys what a boundary is. I'm going to just bring it down to a level of a 4-year-old and a 7.5-year-old. So what I tell my boys is that a boundary keeps something that is precious to you safe. Okay, so we use the analogy of a fence with a gate that opens and closes. Mom, dad, the parent, the guardian is in charge of the fenced off area, the size of that area, the boundary area. The child is in control of the fence opening and closing at free will. So I explained this to my son. He says, but he told me one day, he said, I'm not your slave, because you don't let me make my own decisions. This came from like a 5-year-old. I said, well, I do let you make your own decisions, but when you make the wrong decision, that is when I step in. So I'm teaching you how to make the right decisions. Okay, so a boundary is a fenced off area with a gate that opens and closes at free will. The child is in control of the gate, so they decide Do I stay within the boundaries that mom and dad have laid out for me, or do I step out of the boundary? And then when they step out of the boundary area, then a consequence is due, because then they decide, okay, I don't want to, I don't trust mom and dad to make my decisions for me. I want to try and do this, or I want to steal that little sweetie and eat it. So you step out of the boundary that mom and dad have given you. Just the same with us adults. I always see God's will as an umbrella over our lives. And when he speaks, you listen, and you know where you're supposed to be within his will. But when we decide to step out of his will, underneath the protection of his umbrella, then things happen. We get drenched. And that's the same with the boundary area with for the children. So that's how I explain it to my boys. And when you do not listen, your boundary area becomes smaller. When you are listening and it's going well, then I can increase your area. The older you are, the bigger your boundary area. The smaller you are, the smaller your boundary area.
So I see there's a question here from Ollie, and then it just goes. Can you see it there with you? About
Ollie, I work from home, and my 9-year-old has a knack for wanting to chat to me when I am in the middle of a Zoom call, which is 75% of my day. Don't you? They have like the Zoom radar. They know exactly when parents are on Zoom, don't they? Ollie, Alwetu, it's all about preparing them beforehand. I know that you say 75% of your day is Zoom. So in the morning, while you're having breakfast around the breakfast table, explain to him that this is the case mommy's going to be in. So you didn't say whether was a him or a her. So you just said your 9-year-old. So you can explain to your child, this is what's going to happen the whole day, and I need you to not bother me. But if you do really need to bother me, you can stand next to me out of the screen, put your hand on the table, and wait until I acknowledge you. Or what you can do is you can tell him that these are the things, so help them. These are the things. So we don't always just want to discipline our children and go, you did this, so let's just give you a consequence. We want to help prepare them. We don't want to set them up for failure. So let's help them and say, so while mommy is in the next hour, our Zoom consult, you will be reading these 20 pages in this book. Then thereafter, if you have a little bit of time left, then you can go play outside. So prepare him ahead of time. Try and work out a schedule, your Zoom schedule, and say, this is how it's going to look. This is what I need you to do, and add in some chores in those times as well, so that he knows these are the times that so that he has a list of things to do. And when he's ticked everything off, you can say to him, okay, well, now you can have 30 minutes of screen time while mommy does the Zoom call. So you use it as an incentive. I always feel like children need to work towards their screen time. With my 7.5-year-old now, exactly, they do. I want to die each time I have to show him the door. So try and prepare him ahead of that, and also give him a schedule and things to do. As I say, with my 7.5-year-old, his dad introduced him to computer games, and his dad loves computer games, and he doesn't get much time, but this is something that they do one-on-one, the two of them together. But in order for him to be able to gain time to play games, he needs to read. So he now has to read. Every 10 minutes he reads, he gets 10 minutes of playtime. So he has read 3 books in 2 weeks, because that's how driven he is to be able to play games. And I don't mind that. I don't mind if he gives me an hour of reading a day. That is what he can get to spend with his father playing games.
I've got Richard asking a question. He says, how do we deal with biting? Sometimes my son bites kids at play school. He's 1 year and 7 months old.
Oh, okay. So biting is obviously an issue. My youngest bit, but not the other two have not bitten. So it's to get a child to stop biting at that age. I would focus on first-time obedience, but also then when they do bite, you should make a big fuss over the other child. So take the attention off them. So sorry, but bite him back. Did someone bite him back? So okay. So take the focus off them and then put it on the child that was bitten, if that makes sense. So you go, oh, Shem, are you okay? And then you kind of take your child out of the situation, put them aside, and then you give your focus and attention to the child that was bitten, and from there go fetch your child and bring them back to the child they bit and say to them, so that is not what we do. We are kind to friends. And you can get them to show how sorry they are by either hugging them, or giving them a little pat and saying the actual words that I'm sorry, of jammer of wat ook al.
Yeah, I see that. I see he says that bite him back.
Oh, is that what you meant? Bite him back. Are you going to bite your child back?
No, that's Matthew Cullis. Matthew, you naughty so-and-so. This is serious talk. And then I see Chantal Littlefit. She says, how do we deal with a child that gets angry and frustrated, not knowing how to deal with his own frustration? Now, that is very much what we dealt with earlier on, is that send your child to the room, give him time to cry, then say to him, we're going to talk now when you come back.
Yeah, it depends on the age.
Mm-hmm.
What age, Chantal? I think you just need to tell me what age your child is. I don't know if you have told me yet, but it does depend on the age. So obviously, when you are 3 and under, you don't know what some emotions are, and we need to be able to. Oh, okay, so it's an older child who does know about emotion. Yeah, so taking them out of the situation, go take a minute, work through your emotions, and also give them the tools, because I found even with Arden, which is my middle child, last year when he was 3 years old, he had anger issues. Like, he just would get angry, and I gave him tools to be able to work through those emotions. So what I did was I taught him how to blow on his fingers. I taught him how to he would say, Jesus, help me. Jesus, help me. Jesus, help me. And also tell them to fold their arms, practice self-control. We can teach some adults this as well. Practice self-control. Put your hands together, practice self-control. So we're not going to punch anyone in the face. I know you're angry, but let's practice self-control. And you can give them, a jar that's a glitter jar that they have to shake, and they have to go to the room and wait for all the glitter to reach the bottom, which gives them time to calm down, and then they can come out and chat to you, or you can take it further. Okay.
Well, I see Cindy, we've got some real interesting questions and running from that side to that side. Cindy says, my 11-year-old girl talks all day long, and when I tell her my capacity for listening is maxed, she looks so hurt.
So what I would say is tell her to write you a letter rather than speak to you. Tell her to write down what she would like to tell you in a letter form. So I really know you want to tell mommy this really badly, but how about you go write me a letter, and then I can read it before I go to bed. How about that? And then you might make it all exciting, because you can tell her she can decorate it and get it all, pretty for mom, and then mommy will read it just before bedtime. And then sometimes, actually most times, you'll get that she's going to ask you to write a letter back to her. And then you can actually just write her a little letter, put it next to her bed for when she wakes up for the next morning. So try that.
Oh, I think that's exciting. That sounds like real good parenting advice. And I see this saying, are you giving adult classes? Well, that is what you are. You are a parenting coach. When you actually go to see families, you actually go and live in their house with them for a day or for a few hours. And that way around, you see how the family communicates with each other. So you actually don't then discipline a child at all. You discipline the parents, don't you?
That's exactly it. Yes, I generally tell parents, what did you tell your child before I get? What did you tell them? What am I doing here? And the actual fact is, I'm coming to help the parents. I don't discipline the child. I help the parents set down boundaries and consequences, and we instill boundaries and consequences, and I help give the correct tools in that time. So we do home visits. Obviously, with COVID now. We do virtual consultations, but yeah, generally a home visit would be 3 hours where I come into your house, spend time with you and your family, and we work through these things together with the children obviously present.
Timann, I love it. I just see how we are flying in time. I just want us to touch on this big issue what is the link between routine and a child's character?
Sorry, I just read Uncle Charles.
What is that?
He says, where were you when we were about murdering Charlene and Heather? Okay, so the link between, discipline and
The
routine.
link between routine and character in a child. What is the link between routine and character?
So I think routine doesn't come easily for everyone. I think it's very important that we do. I'm a creature of habits. I love routine. I love structure. When you come into my house, you'll know exactly. My husband's always baffled with me because he says, when I just leave the home to go to the shop, I would give him a little WhatsApp and I'll say, the baby is going to wake up at 10 o'clock. This is going to happen at this time. This is going to happen. He's going, exactly at 10 o'clock, he woke up. How is this even possible? Because that is what I've installed in my home. Routine and structure. And sometimes it's difficult, but you know what? When it's difficult, it actually builds into your character. And then it becomes character building. But it is needed for children. Children do need routine. They need structure. And even though it's difficult for some parents to give it, it is needed because it does show later on in life. It might not now look to you like when they are 3 years old, structure and routine might look different. But honestly, when they are 18 years old, leaving the house, you'll know what impact a structure and routine had on them at that age.
I love what you're saying, because remember now, one of the things that I believe in is that character is built in the house, and character comes with discipline. Now, some of the disciplines in the house that a child needs to learn from a young age would be
to listen. No, so yeah.
What would some of the disciplines be if you say to a little 3-year-old, make your bed? Is that a discipline? Or go pack
it's
your
a
clothes
very
away,
good
pack
place
your
to
toys.
start. Yeah, so I mean, as well, I use my family as an example, and please don't look at me and go, oh my gosh, she's such a super mommy. Oh, your children are so well behaved, etc. My children, for those that know me, know that my children aren't robots. They do push the boundaries. They do sometimes not listen. And people often say to me, you're so lucky, with your children. You're so lucky. It's hard work. And I can tell you now, every night, my husband and I fall down on our beds and we go, that was tough. But you know what? Tomorrow we wake up and we do it all again. It's hard, but I would rather deal with the hard now than the hardships later on when my child is 18 going into the world, and then they will have hardships. And I can actually avoid that happening when I put down a routine at home. And that includes things like when you wake up, make your bed. We have a rule in our house: when you make up, you make your bed. And my boys cannot make their bed beautifully as I do it, but I allow them to do it, and then I fix it later on. And then you put on your clothes and you fold your pajamas and you put it on your bed. It's a rule. It's all about helping them be the best version of themselves one day, because what we are doing now, we are cultivating an environment that our children are growing up into, and that is going to be part of who they are one day when we release them into society. So if we don't allow them to do the things that they can do, so that's what I always tell parents: don't do something for a child that they can do for themselves. Okay, because that's also important. That builds into them and that becomes who they are. When you are done with your toys, pack it up. And then you move on to the next toy. That is all about the routine and structure that we have, the rules that we've placed in our house, and it works phenomenally. We also have a 5-minute rule before bath time, where I put a timer on and we call it the chicken run. And my boys run through the house and they pick up everything that they've left. I don't generally leave things in the house all over the show, but they have 5 minutes to pick up if they maybe left a book, etc. If they skip anything, we actually take that toy or that book and we wrap it and we give it to them for Christmas. Because that's how important it is to us, that they must know that you need to pick up after yourself, because I'm not going to do it for you.
I just want to give the last question. Goodness me, we can really go on here. There's so many questions. Does a bedtime routine need to be as strictly implemented over a weekend when things aren't always the same as in the week?
Okay, so if we do consistent bedtimes of we are in bed by 7 o'clock every night the week, and on Friday night you want to have a movie night, by all means do it. But don't push a child to go to sleep at 10 o'clock and wake them up at 7 o'clock for church. Okay, that again is setting them up for failure. So, I mean, what we do is we keep our routine 6 nights a week, and we allow for 1 night off night. Because also for me, it's super important for parents to be able to spend time together. And that is generally why we do it. And, you know, whenever your children are still running awake at 9 o'clock, and when are you and your husband actually going to spend time together? So we are very important. Our boys are in bed 7 o'clock, 7:30, the oldest are sleeping, 6:45, the baby's asleep. And then from there, we get to spend time together. I feel that is super important. So have a strict bedtime during the week, and you can play with it a little bit over the weekend.
So, Timann, the questions are coming in and time is running out. This is so exciting. Bedtime for a 5-year-old is not the same as bedtime for a 10-year-old. What would you do before bedtime with a child? Keep a routine in their lives, and then obviously weekends we sort of give a bit more freebie and free time. But what would the different childs be? Like, you've got a little baby, you've got a middle child, and then you've got a 7-year-old. Do they all go to bed at the same time? Do they have the same routine before they go? Do they go to the toilet first? Do they brush their teeth? What are the routines?
Okay, yeah, so that it obviously differs with the age. We're a bit more lenient with my 7.5-year-old. He can go because he can handle going to bed a bit later, whereas my 4-year-old cannot. So what we do is the 2 small ones bath together. So our routine goes bath, supper, bath, Bible and Bible stories, praying, and then it's sleep time. So often, but before bedtime, there is a toilet run in our house. So the boys get to 7.5-year-old. He wakes up during the night to go to the wee, but my 4-year-old does not, and we do have some oopsies. So we need to force him to go to the bathroom beforehand, and then he'll say to me, "Ma, ek wil nie, ek kan nie piep nie." And said, "But just go try," and then he actually does every single time. So there is obviously leading up to bedtime certain things, but every family is different. We've chosen to build in to full on supper time together. We sit around the table, we talk, your bath time, daddy does that, the older one showers. We are invested in that time as a family. In our evening routine. Also, that's also like lovely time for us to be able to build into them, and also have one-on-one time with our children over that time.
Well, you know what? I'm just so impressed with what we had tonight, and we're going to have to redo this or do it over. And I hope everybody that watched this, unfortunately our time is running out. Please send this link to your friends, and then you can contact Timann directly. Timann, please, what is your email address? Or are you prepared to give your cell phone number?
Yeah, sure, not a problem. So my email is Timann, Timann, at munchkins.me, and my cell phone number is 067 400 7635.
Okay, you just lost us there. You lost us. You said it all too fast. The email address is again slow down.
Email address, Timann, that's Timann, at Munchkins, MUNCHKINS.me. And my cell phone number is 067 400 7635. And
so
honestly,
you got that.
I live in Pretoria, but I used to frequent Port Elizabeth often. But obviously because of COVID, it doesn't happen as much as I would like to, because grannies are still there. And yeah, I would love to be able to come every 6 weeks, but unfortunately we don't. But I am available for virtual consultations for anyone.
Timann, this has been fantastic. I found a few things in between what you said. One of them that you said, I love, and you said you want the parents to rather thrive than survive.
Yes.
But a parent can only thrive when they are disciplined in themselves and disciplined in their homes, so their children can then thrive. And then I like the word first time obedience, and we're going to have to talk about that one because we never spoke about that one.
Yes.
And then the children have love tanks as much as we have love tanks, and they have emotions as much as we have emotions. And they feel anger, and they feel love, and they feel disappointment, and we have to deal with that. So we're going to have to listen back to this. And then I also saw the one thing You need to work towards boundaries. Now, and that obviously is a job for parents. So I see parents that are listening to this tonight. If you are achieving in some of these things, give yourself a big hand. You're doing great, but you're going to have to do much more, because and I like what you said, I'm rather focusing on doing it right now for my children, because they are going out in the world, and when they go out in the world, they will be somebody else's problem. Mine is right now to set the boundaries, to do the right thing. I love it, Timann. Thank you. A final word that you want to give the parents.
Yes, actually. So I've been dealing with this week, and I actually just wanted to share it with you guys, because being a parent is it's a sacrifice every single day, and it's hard work. And sometimes you have to give more than what you have. And that sounds really crazy, because you're going, how can I give what I do not have? But we give from a place because we get filled by Jesus. So when you reach that point where I have nothing more to give, just check your source. Where are you getting what you are giving? I think that is super important, that we need to check our source, because when you have nothing more to give, you need to dig into Jesus for him to fill you, so that you have something to give to your children.
Well, thank you very much, Timann. This talk will be posted on Facebook on About Life and Love. If you want to follow it, you can also restream this on the Word of Faith from the Word of Faith YouTube and the Word of Faith Facebook pages. And you can definitely contact Timann. And I hope that we can get to the next topic, the first time obedience. God bless you, and thank you very much for listening to us, Timann. You are a star as usual. Thank you very much for giving us the time tonight. God bless you all, and we'll